There's a reality behind the Police Online Assessment Centre that you're probably just not aware of. So in this video, I'm going to pull back the blinds. I'm going to reveal exactly what the Police Recruitment Online Assessment Centre involves. All 3 stages. We're going to dive deep. And after that, at the end of that explanation, I'm going to show you how you just don't need this. You don't need the wheel of confusion in order to be able to pass the Online Assessment Centre, despite what the College of Policing tells you, that you need to go through the CVF and understand the CVF. I'm going to show you how you don't need to do any of that, because the CVF is possibly the most confusing thing that's come from the College of Policing. All right, before we dive in, who am I? Why should you listen to anything I've got to say? My name is Brendan from Blue Light, and over the past 31 years now, I've been coaching people for the police recruitment process, promotion boards, specialist interviews, ever since I got promoted to sergeant in 1993. Yeah, it was 1993. Actually, that's 32 years. Anyway, enough of my terrible maths. Huge amount of success. We've got great reviews on Trustpilot. We've got over 800 5-star reviews now for our services. This is our academy service where we actually guarantee the result for you. We work with you intensively, one-to-ones, small group practice webinars, ton of online material, and we actually guarantee the result. So that's who I am. That's what we do. Let's dive in. So the Online Assessment Centre, what's it all about? Well, prior to COVID, there used to be a whole day long assessment centre where you had to do an interview, a written exercise, role plays, 4 role plays, all set in a delightful Westshire shopping centre where you were a customer services officer. And it was designed by the College of Policing. It wasn't great, but it lasted for almost a decade. And then COVID came along and just destroyed everything because they couldn't do those sort of face-to-face assessment centres anymore. They had to do something online. So as a temporary stopgap, because the College of Policing actually were pioneering a new form of face-to-face assessment centre, and then it just all got dropped during COVID. COVID required something else, and so they came up with an online assessment centre. It was meant to be temporary, but it's still here. Like years later, it's still here. So it's made up of 3 parts, and I'm going to dive into each one of those 3 parts for you. An interview that's not really an interview, a written exercise that's 2 hours long, and a briefing that's not really a briefing because you're not actually doing a briefing, but they call it a briefing. There's a briefing that's not a briefing. We're going to dive into each one of those in a moment, and like I said, at the end, I'm going to show you how you don't need the CVF in order to get one of the highest marks possible. This is what our clients get, and they don't have to look at the CVF. I know, intriguing. Stick around until the end and I'll tell you all about it. So first of all, the interview, what does it involve? Well, here's our handy guide that we provide for our clients. This one is written in understandable English as opposed to the College of Policing gobbledygook. And basically it's an interview that's not an interview, because an interview is where someone's asking you questions and you're replying to those questions. You're giving an answer. 2 people interacting with each other. This isn't. This is you just talking to a camera. This is you talking to your camera like I'm talking to my camera now on my phone in this live broadcast. You get asked 5 questions. It'll start off with a practice question that's not marked. And interestingly, that practice question is not in the same style as the other 5 questions. So why do they choose that as a practice question? The practice question invariably is, why do you want to be a police officer? So you get to practice, get you comfortable, and then they move into completely different styles of questions. All the questions are rear-facing, as in, tell me about a time when. So you're not going to get asked questions about how you deal with something in the future. You're not going to get asked questions about your motivation, about your values, about the challenges that you may face, the impact of being a police officer, the role of being a police officer. All the things that you get in your final interview are not going to happen here, but you are going to get 5 questions that ask you, tell me about a time when. Now, the College of Policing tell you what values and competencies you're going to get assessed against. They tell you that it's going to be public service, courage, respect and empathy, take ownership, and innovative and open-minded. The thing is, the questions will not be, tell me about a time when you've demonstrated a high level of service. Tell me about a time when you've demonstrated courage. Tell me about a time when you've demonstrated respect and empathy. No, it doesn't work like that. We've actually got, here's more of our explanations as to what to do and how to approach it, we actually have. There we go. These are our sample interview questions. Plus, we actually highlight all the different things that you need to cover in your answer. Now, we don't advocate at all that you make stuff up. You've always got to speak to the truth. But what this does is it provides you with a handy bit of guidance as to how to structure your answers and the sort of questions that you may expect. Because here's another thing about the interview phase. The questions don't necessarily immediately reflect the actual competency or the value. It's not obvious that this question is related to that competency or value. So you've got to be on your toes here, got to be on your toes. Now, you're given the question, it'll be on the screen, and also someone will actually tell you the question, they'll ask you it. It's a person, it's not a real person, well, it is a real person, but it's a recording. And then you've got 1 minute to think about your answer and make notes. No, you can't take notes in with you. You've got to make, the only notes you can make are the ones you make in that 1 minute. And that's why we prime our clients to have answers already prepared for a variety of different questions, so that no matter what question crops up, they've got an answer that's been well practiced, well rehearsed, and you don't really need that 1 minute. But you've got 1 minute to steady yourself, make some notes, and then launch into it. And you've got 5 minutes to deliver an answer. Now, we sometimes hear people saying, oh, you'd be okay with just a 2 or 3 minute answer. Well, why would you just be okay with that? Don't you want the highest marks possible? Whilst you're talking, you're scoring. If you're not talking, you're not scoring. So utilize all of those 5 minutes. How we're going to do that? We're going to have a brilliant structure. The structure that we utilize is one where you talk about the situation that you're in. It's got to be a difficult and challenging situation. It's not, this is how I normally deal with things. It's got to be a challenging and difficult situation, a specific situation. Don't go for things that are done and dusted and over in the space of a minute, like dealing with a first aid incident, because there's just not enough moving parts in it. This needs to be a problem or a situation, a challenging thing that takes place over a period of time. They're the best answers. They're the best answers. So we're going to talk about all sorts of other things in the situation, things like impact, why it was difficult, how it made you feel, a pile of other things. All of these things are designed to hit the behaviours within the values and the competencies. Then we talk about our aim, not task like STAR. No one talks like that. No one says the task I set myself. We're going to talk about the aim, what I aim to achieve. And then you can talk about options, the options I considered were. So we're going to go into detail about that. And then you're going to talk about the option you chose and why. And then we move into the most important part, the action phase. The big mistake so many of you make is you talk about what you did, but not how you did it. It's the how you did it that gets the marks. The how you did it that gets the marks, which is why in our guidance, we've got all sorts of supplementary points. The supplementary points relate to the behaviors. So when you add those supplementary points, when you address those supplementary points, you're hitting the behaviors. That's how it works. I know this. I used to design the questions for the College of Policing all those years ago. I've worked for them and with them on 4 occasions during my career. So the action phase is really important. Then we go to the result, what happened, what the result was, and don't try and persuade everyone that everything you touch turns to gold, because if mistakes were made, you learn from them, and then you can talk about the learning. So that's our SARL model. It works really, really well. We know this to be true because it's worked for years now, and it works all the time, every time. Making sense so far? That's the interview. That's the interview. So moving on, the next exercise is the written exercise. Written exercise, there we go. Written exercise is where you are going to be given a scenario, despite the fact that the College of Policing tell you you don't need to know anything about policing. And then they're going to give you a scenario, which is a policing scenario. Now, all of these things are due to change very, very soon. We know that for a while now, the College of Policing has had a working party with forces to create some more material, so create new material, written material, the written exercise material, new briefing material, new interview questions, although they'll still be based on the same values and competencies. The thing is, you can derive several different types of questions just from one competency or value. So, the written exercise. Whatever it is, it'll be some kind of problem in the community. It'll give you a position of being a neighbourhood police officer or a police officer in Westshire, and you'll be asked several questions about how you're going to deal with that particular issue. Now, give you a little sneak preview into one of the things that works so well, and this is one of the reasons why you don't need the CVF, is because when you have a structured approach that's been mapped against the CVF, more about that later, then you don't need to know the CVF. Trying to weave in all of the different values and the competencies in your answer is the road to confusion. I was just talking about this with one of our clients yesterday, who was saying, I just don't understand how I'm going to be able to do this. And I explained to him our systems and processes and methods, and how when he utilizes those, you won't even need to look at the CVF, because when you follow those systems and models, all the behaviors from the CVF fall out of the sky. They don't actually physically fall out of the sky. It's like metaphorically. Is that making sense so far? So one of them, we use several models here, but one of the main ones is a problem-solving model called SARA, and that stands for scanning, analysis, response, and assessment. The scanning part is where you bring together all the information that you've been provided with, and you then go on to analyze it, and you analyze it by forming a working group. We show you in our academy program how to bring that information in, how to form the working group, and from there we come up with responses that are the sort of responses that the College of Policing like, because they map out against the behaviours. Now, they're all real-world type responses, because I was a neighbourhood inspector for 8 years. This is my thing. I went on to do work with the European Union around problem-solving and community engagement in Central and Eastern Europe. I've spoken at conferences about this sort of thing, and the rest of our team also have expertise in neighbourhood policing. So we're creating all sorts of different options here: short-term, long-term, preventative, enforcement, out-of-court disposals, a whole variety of different things that will enable you to nail it. And then the assessment part is how you're going to evaluate your progress. So that's one of the models we utilize. Can you see how you don't need the CVF? Is that making sense? That's the written exercise. Of course, there's all sorts of other different models in there, like the 4 Cs, PAT, out-of-court disposals, a whole variety of things. What you don't want to be doing, and this is why PCSOs and special constables often fail, what you don't want to be doing is utilising an option which is real-world option. West Mercia Police put something out there, a video recently, showing how they're dealing with a certain kind of community problem, and it relates very much to the online assessment centre written exercise as it stands now. No, just don't follow that real-world approach, because it's not what the College of Policing are looking for. Making sense? All right, last one. We'll dive into the briefing. Briefing exercise. There we go. There's our briefing exercise. It's a scenario that you're going to be given. It used to be called a paper feed. This is an online version of it. It's not a briefing. A briefing is where you give a 15-minute talk to someone about a particular topic or a particular scenario. This is a scenario that you're going to be given. It's set in a college. Spoiler alert, the police don't deal with this kind of issue, by the way. They never do. They never will. I was a neighbourhood inspector for 8 years. None of my officers would have ever gone to this. I was a response inspector for a long time as well. None of my officers would have ever been dispatched to this. I was a governor at my children's school for 7 years. We would never have dreamed of contacting the police about this kind of issue. But you've got to put yourself in College of Policing world. I call it College of Policing La La Land. Someone at the College of Policing thinks the police deal with this kind of issue. The last briefing exercise was a noisy party. Guess what? Police don't deal with noisy parties. So it's the same problem. College of Policing keep coming up with scenarios that actually don't relate to realistic policing. And this is why special constables and PCSOs often fail, because they'll talk about how they deal with it in reality, which is not what they're looking for. And you may be thinking, that's so weird. Surely the College of Policing have got it wrong. Yeah, I think they have. But it doesn't matter. The golden rule applies. Those who hold the gold make the rules. And they're making the rules. So just got to follow them. So why is it not a briefing? Well, they give you that scenario and then they drip feed questions. You've got first question, 1 minute to think about it, 3 minutes to answer it. Second question gets given to you straight after. 1 minute to think about it, 3 minutes to give your answer. After 4 questions, the scenario develops. And then you've got another 4 questions. And then after those 4 questions, so you're at question 8 now, the scenario develops again, and then you've got another 4 questions. You've got 36 minutes of talking time. 36 minutes. That's exhausting. So we need to be ready with, again, systems, processes, structures. How do we do safeguarding? How do we identify vulnerability? How do we negotiate? How do we manage conflict? All of those things, we've got models and systems for them. So it doesn't matter whether the scenario changes, with the new changes that are coming up soon, it doesn't matter. Because when you apply those systems and processes, you can apply them to anything. This is what I developed as a police officer. I developed all sorts of my own systems and processes to deal with specific instances, to deal with specific problems. And these are many of them, and they work. They work so well. So this is why, there's the online assessment centre, by the way, but this is why you just don't need this. Because when you operate to systems and processes and structures, when you talk or write about those systems, processes and structures, the behaviours that they're looking for fall out of the sky. So if we were looking at, let's say, analyse critically, or innovative and open-minded. Let's say we're looking at innovative and open-minded. Level 1, innovative and open-minded. You'll be thinking, right, I've got to seek to learn from new ideas and experiences, including the diverse experiences of others. I've got to share suggestions with colleagues, speaking up to help improve existing work. Oh, I've got to do all of these things. How do I weave all of these things into my online assessment centre? You don't. You don't. So that when you do things like assess in the written exercise, the assess stage of SARA, it demonstrates that you are capable of reflecting on your experience of different situations and acting on the learning this provides. Makes sense? When you work alongside other agencies, you demonstrate that you show you're open to new ideas and ways of working. In the briefing exercise, the situation changes, so you demonstrate you can adapt flexibly to change as the need arises, encouraging other people to do the same. So when you follow the systems and processes, all of those behaviours from the CVF fall out of the sky. I promise you they will. So there you go, folks. There it is. And if you're thinking this academy sounds really cool, and at the end of this video, then ask me in the comments below, send me a message if you're watching this inside our Facebook group. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then at the very top of the description, there's a form to complete. It takes less than 5 minutes, just asks you where you are now, where you want to be, what you're struggling with, and then we'll jump on a call with you. No obligation whatsoever. If anything, you'll learn a whole lot of things about the recruitment process and yourself and your preparedness for the process. So there we go, folks. Thank you for joining me on this live, hopefully useful for you. And if you're watching this on the recording, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do ask in the comments below. If you've got any questions, I'll always answer them. Always, always, always. And I will see you at the next one. Oh, and if you are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that you get access to the next video that's coming up, because we post just about every day. I'll catch you on the other side. Bye-bye for now.